I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Sonic Perspectives, I'm pleased to be speaking with Richie Kotzen for the release of Smith Kotzen's new album, Black Light, White Noise, that's due out on April 4th. Richie, thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so I think it's a great album. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as well.
Yeah, we are. We had really happy. We're really happy to be in a position to where we have a follow up to the first record. It was well received, and we had the opportunity to do some live stuff after that record, and coming out of it, we wanted to do more, and so we were able to get together and create this follow up record, and we're excited to share it with everybody.
Yeah, I really think that the architecture of Black Light, White Noise seems very comfortable, very freeing and instinctual, from guitar playing to singing to the lyrics. Was that the case when you were writing and recording it?
Yeah, it's a really free-flowing process, and we didn't have any sort of time pressure involved, so it was a situation where once we had all the songs that we liked, we could talk about releasing it. So, sometimes you find yourself in a position where it's like, well, okay, we have to have a record done by a certain date. So, you can work towards that date, but there's a chance that you may be under a certain kind of pressure and make decisions under pressure that, I don't really like making decisions under pressure. So we didn't have that. And I think that's why, it feels the way it does, like described.
I think after, you mentioned you did the first EP, the first album, you have an EP out, you played together. Your partnership with Adrian comes across on this album as seamless and very organic. How has the dynamic evolved from the first album? Because that's kind of like you're dating, the EP was like you're engaged, and now this is like you're married. So I could certainly definitely a difference. And I was wondering, you could tell.
I don't know how I feel about that concept, but the truth is that it's very much the same.
Really?
Yeah, it's very much the same. I think what happened is that when we got together to write the very first time, it clicked, and I think emails coming in. It clicked, and it's because we had a common ground that we landed on. And so the common ground that I think that we have is the love for, what you'd probably call classic rock and, like Free, Bad Company, those kinds of groups. And then obviously we have our separate influences. I kind of come from more of a jazz fusion sort of thing. And Adrian obviously is a key component to Iron Maiden. So, we have, influences that are far apart, but then we also have a common ground. And so that common ground is what we connected on. And that's what you hear in the music. Every now and then it gets a little heavy, but it's not really super heavy. Every now and then it gets a little, progressive, but it's not super progressive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Down the middle, the vocals are always, in this kind of soul blues bass sort of thing, and the guitar solos in general are kind of based around a similar influence. So I think it's a nice departure for both of us. I think Adrian shows a side of him that people don't see normally, and then for me, at the same way, people see me in a different sort of light as well.
I liked hearing him sing. I think that's always a surprise and extremely unique, because I don't think of him as a singer, and it's great. He does a tremendous job, and I really enjoy that aspect of hearing his voice.
Me too. Yeah, he's a great singer, a great writer, and he's really great at the whole picture. He's actually a complete package, and I could see him making, just going off and making solo records if he really wanted to. I don't see, anything stopping him.
That's great. Was there any particular song where you felt the collaboration between the two of you really clicked and stood out on this album more than in the past, or anything else on this album?
I don't think that there's anything that happened on this record that would say more than
Mm,
before. I really don't. I
really?
really
Okay.
feel like that the formula or the magic, for lack of a better term, is what it is. And it
Yeah.
was established on the first record, and it's consistently represented on this record. So I don't think that it kind of grew tentacles and went in charted territory.
Right, right.
Everything that happened to me felt very familiar. And again, what I like about it is the ease of operation. It's a very comfortable writing process. And
That's great.
we connected on that very quickly, very, very soon in the process, and it continued on, thankfully, to lead us to a follow-up record.
The album has a lot of dynamics to it, and one of the things that you said a couple of minutes ago was the heavy side. Life Unchanged, Chained, excuse me. Killer riff, fiery song. That was, I think, one of the heavier songs on there, along with maybe Heavy Weather. But tell me a little about the riff for Life Unchanged and how it came about.
Sure. So that's one of those things that kind of happens quite often with us, where Adrian will come in with either a riff or a verse idea, and
Mhm.
I end up bringing the chorus in. And that's what happened on that song. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen quite often. And on that song, it did. So he had that kind of driving, thing that was the verse and the intro riff. And then for whatever reason, I led us down that road that was the chorus, and I think it goes into a kind of a halftime kind of thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
It's been a minute to listen to the whole record. Um, but you know, it has kind of a cool, push and pull to it as far as the feel of the song, where you kind of have that straightforward rocking verse, and then it kind of goes into something a little more unexpected, I guess you would say, for the
Yes.
for the
My
chorus.
favorite track. I love that
Yeah.
song. Been listening to it over and over. I think that's a great one.
Really?
Uh,
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
yeah.
And that was one of the songs that was one of the last songs we wrote. That came in at the tail end. There was a writing session where we got together, or a period of time, and we were throwing ideas around, and there were three songs that came in the very end, and that was one of them.
Are you guys always together writing? I mean, or are you sending stuff via email or
Always together. Yeah, we've
that's
never.
great.
I don't remember doing. Um, Maybe there was one song that was done remotely, which might have been. It was a song on the EP that I can't remember the name, but I remember him sending me something and me working on it, and then us finishing it together. But you know, other than that one composition, uh, what the hell was the name of that song? Not important. But yeah, together is the
That's
answer.
great. How long do you guys spend together? Is it like you guys hang out, you have a couple of beers? Is it like a whole day affair? It must, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that.
Yeah, it's more like tea and coffee rather
Okay.
than a couple of beers. But it's like he'll come over, and it always happens like in a period like around the holidays,
Yeah.
because they have a place nearby, a few minutes from me.
Yeah.
And so what happens is it's like, okay, I'm here in this window, which is usually like December, January, February.
Yeah.
And so we get together, and he'll bring his laptop over and just pull it up. Hey, here's what I've been working on.
Awesome.
And so I say, "Yeah, give me that. I like that." So we'll load that into my computer, and then we'll start
Don't send
messing
that to
around.
Iron Maiden. Keep that for me.
Well, no, you know what's interesting? It's like I don't think, like I did something like where uh I had some ideas, and I thought to myself, well, I think Adrian would like some of these things. And then I'm like, well, I don't think this would work for us. So the
Yeah.
stuff that I thought he would like, I put in a folder, and I went through them and played them. And it was really simple. So, yeah, I like that. Okay, check mark. I like that bit. Man, I don't think that fits. You know what I mean? It's very
Right.
like, let's see what you like, what you don't like, and no offense, not everything is for everybody. And so out of it, if I've got 5 things, he's got 5 things, and that's 10. If we get 5 or 6 out of that, we're way ahead, and then
Yeah,
we work on them. And
that's good.
then somewhere down the road, it takes a lot of time to create these songs. You have to
Of
write the
course.
lyrics and all this stuff. But at the point where we've got 5, 6, 7 compositions that we feel like are really something, worth mixing, then it's like, okay, well, what do we feel like we need to round out the album? It's an interesting thing because I don't really think that way with my own music. When I write, I just write, record, write, record, write, record, and then eventually I get to a point where I've got all this stuff, and then I can say, okay, well, these 10 I like, I put them on an album. But our approach is pretty much like that. It's a
Yeah.
matter of like, okay, if we both like it, then we'll pursue it. And if one guy is like, let it lie in the weeds, move on.
Yeah. You're a huge Iron Maiden fan. You've been working with Adrian for a couple of years now on this. Could you write a Maiden riff or a Maiden song if you wanted to? Could you write a Maiden sounding song?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I would have to put my time machine vibe on and be like, look at it like, how would I feel when I first heard the band for the first time, like that energy, and then I would have to try to capture that somehow. I don't
You
know.
definitely need a folder. You should do that. Keep a folder. Next time he comes over, hey, for the next Iron Maiden album, I got a little something for you here for you.
That'd be great. I know.
That would be a
I know
dream.
that there was a point where we had a conversation. I asked him about what his favorite Maiden song was,
Yeah.
and then I thought, oh, we should try to write something like that, but it never went. It was just like a in the kitchen, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I ended up writing
What
something
was his
completely.
favorite? What was his favorite
I
song?
can't, I can't tell you that. You have to ask him when you talk to him.
Oh.
I don't, I'm not going to take on but
Yeah,
no, we have to try
that would be all over social media before this interview
yeah,
even got
yeah,
posted,
yeah.
right?
Well, I'm not going to get involved in that.
That's a good one. That's funny. There's an underlying hard rock aspect of this album, but there's ultimately a lot of blues too. What was it about the blues that is taking you down the path of integrating it into so much of your music and so many of your songs? I know you talk about jazz fusion, and I'm not a jazz fusion guy. I don't really know a lot about it, but I hear the blues and soul and rhythm and blues.
Sure. I mean, if it wasn't for blues music, there wouldn't be any rock music, obviously. I don't uh I don't look at myself as a blues player, I
Mhm,
love the great ones, you
mhm.
know, but I look at myself as just I look at myself as more of a recording artist, honestly, like a guy that has ideas for music, for songs.
Yeah.
That's what I see first. When I think, if I step outside, the only reason I would ever step outside is when I do an interview. People will ask certain questions or bring things up. Under normal day-to-day activity, these kinds of thoughts would never enter my mind. But
Mm.
when it comes up, to respond to it, I see the reason for playing and singing is to make music. So I have ideas, I have melodies. I love the songwriting process. I love writing lyrics and
Yeah.
and telling stories. So that is at the top. And whether it's fusiony, jazzy, bluesy, rocky, funky, I couldn't care less. I think the sound, uh, the way that I deliver this stuff gets described as you're describing it.
Yeah.
It's because of my influences. So, I keep talking about the influences, but it's very important. It's like, I grew up in the Northeast, outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Stevie Wonder was my first concert. George
Mhm.
Benson was the second concert. And then a few years later, I saw Iron Maiden. So if you take that into account,
Yeah.
that's kind of the pendulum swing right there. And then
Yeah.
the pendulum got a little bit wider when I started taking the guitar more seriously. I started listening to, more fusiony stuff, maybe Return to Forever or Alan Holdsworth and that sort of stuff. But then at the same time, I still loved, Maiden and Black Sabbath and all that stuff. So I've kind of have this kind of thing where I kind of swing into the kind of R&B soul fusion world with a touch of jazz, and then I'll swing back into the kind of old school hard rock thing.
Yeah.
Those influences, I guess, create this kind of hybrid that shows up in my music. But I don't sit around and think about styles. I only address that if someone, and it's fine to address it, but if someone,
Yeah.
oh, do you listen to the blues? Do you listen to this? It's like, not really. I don't really listen to a lot of music in general. I just kind of play, noodle around, wait for an idea, and then I go in the studio and record it. you know?
You know, do you feel that this album represents a new chapter in your musical journey? You talk a little bit about evolving, growing, listening to different, types of things. Are you constantly growing with this process of working with Adrian from, say, where you were with the Winery Dogs to now, and even your solo stuff?
It's a very different hat, I
Mm.
mean, I feel like there's things that I did on my previous solo record that a few months ago I put a record out called Nomad. There's a
Right.
couple of things on there that I did that I haven't done in a while, and I haven't done them that way in the past. Like if I look at like the song Nihilist, there's elements of that song they're almost reminiscent to my very first album, but
Mhm.
then it's combined with singing, which I didn't do on my first album. So I think when it comes to boundary pushing, I think more of that for me happens when I work alone
Yeah.
because it's a much more of a free flow of ideas without compromise or conversation or any of that sort of thing. It's like you get dressed in the morning and you're ready to leave your house. And if you're with a partner, they might say, "Are you sure you want to wear that?" And
Yeah.
so that might have a positive reaction or a negative reaction. It might be positive because maybe you were about to make a terrible mistake, but then again, maybe that was the outfit that would have changed your life if you wore it that day, and this person just created unnecessary chaos. So, causing you to
A
doubt
lot of
yourself.
overthinking, right?
Well, yeah, right. So, like the same way I'm overthinking the answer to this question right now, but you know, I guess the short answer is I think the real self-discovery, expansion, and
Yeah.
going really deep into other places. I think that's a lot easier for an artist to do when they're left to their own devices unchecked.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's probably where the most, you know, you're going to put yourself out on a limb. You have the chance to really drop off and fail, or you have the chance to do something that really is next level, and you
Yeah.
push yourself into a whole new realm, which is that's
That's a
a
great
very
response.
beautiful thing if that can happen.
That's a great response. Maiden looks like they have some block of free time so far in 2025. Do you think we're going to see a tour with you guys larger than just the West Coast?
It's something we talked about, but now as the year is kind of coming together, it doesn't look like there's going to be touring this year.
Okay.
Uh, we've talked about it, but I'm actually now, looking at the schedule and seeing, where they're active and where I'm going to be active. It might not happen this year, but it definitely is something that we want to do. I think realistically, if you look at January, February, I think you could see something. But the way the year is building, I don't know how that would fit in at the moment. But it's something that I very much look forward to doing and would like to do. And uh, the other thing is that yeah, I don't know how to stop that, by the way. This text thing is coming on my computer and I have no idea how to turn it off. It drives me nuts.
I'm not
Uh,
seeing anything on my end, but
okay, good. What I wanted to say is we do have a gig next week. we're playing an acoustic show
Oh,
at the
that's right.
Grammy
Yes.
Museum in Los Angeles, which we're very
Yes. Yes.
excited about. Yeah. So that's going to be really cool.
That'd be good. Yeah, a bunch of my friends were like, "Why is it the West Coast?" Obviously, you guys live there, but we would like to see it larger. So we're hoping sometime it comes
Well,
over.
that tour was done that way because of the pandemic. You know, we had serious limitations on what we were able to do and manage risk. You know, the
Yeah.
risk of the
Yeah.
tour coming down, because
Yeah.
a lot of things that were happening as people were building, it's a very expensive investment to build a tour. You know,
Yeah.
you have to go in before you can, you know, it's an investment. And so it was like, all right, well, let's test the waters. At least let's show the band. So we were able to do something in California that made sense. And then the same thing happened for the UK. But ultimately, we would love the opportunity to do something much bigger.
Do you find yourself going to be doing a solo tour, maybe on
Yeah, I think that's probably what's up. Yeah, I've got some shows, two local shows in May, one on the 23rd and one the 24th, which is the 23rd. I hope I don't get these backwards, but they're on my website. I think the 23rd is in San Juan Capistrano, and the 24th is at the Whiskey in West Hollywood. And then we go off to Japan for 3 shows. And it looks like something is being built in the fall of this year in the United States.
Oh, that's
So
great. I'd
keep
love to
your
come
eye
out and
open.
see you.
Yeah.
And my last thing, I want to be respectful of your time. Everything okay with your family from the impact of the fires? Are you guys all good?
Yeah, I mean, thank God I'm still here. You know, this is the third time that we've gotten lucky. The first time was really, really, really scary for us because the fire started here,
Yeah.
and many people lost homes. You know, you can look out the window, and I was able to point up that burned that, and thankfully our place remained.
Right.
And we fixed it and moved back in after about a month and a half of being out. And then, you know, there was the fire down at Pepperdine, and then right after that, obviously the Palisades. It's a horrible, tragic, dreadful thing to have to go through. That the stress of not knowing, which
Yeah.
is what I experienced, and what I would imagine, like the whole thing going down. It's just got to be next level. I don't even know how to process that,
Yeah.
but we got lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey, and it's unfathomable to think what would happen like that. So yeah, it's hard to place yourself in that
But
situation.
something I think about in my day to day, it's like, okay, now I've taken stuff out of here and put it somewhere else where
Yeah,
I
smart.
feel safer. And it just seems insane, like that I have to think like this, but it really is kind of, it's like on one hand, it depends. It's like everything has a cost. You know, if I lived in my old neighborhood, there was a whole other thing that was happening that kind of made me not want to be there.
Yeah.
And so now I'm here. So, I'm isolated, not isolated, but I have, I'm outside, I'm out of the fray, so to speak. And it's
Right.
pretty, and it's nature, and it's beautiful, and it's this and that, but it's with a cost. You
Yeah.
have to have that in your mind, and around that time of the year, do whatever it is that you could possibly do, and know that not everything is in your control.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, Richie, I want to thank you so much for your time. I love the album, and hopefully I get to speak with Adrian to ask him that question about his favorite song. And I think
You
it's
got to do it. Yeah,
I will. I will. And I hope I see you on tour. So
All right.
have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.